Welcome back to another class of Python for app development. In this class, I'm going to be starting off another segment of this course where we are going to show you how you can customize your app. So make sure not to skip any part because every part of it is going to be very important and it's also going to amplify and also what you're going to be doing next up till the course ends. Okay, so without any further ado, let's open up PyCharm on our device and show you how you can know or how you can customize your button clicks inside of your console. As you can see on my screen, I have opened up PyCharm. We are going to be customizing the way our console looks. So obviously we're not going to be using this same feature or the same type of app which we are using right now. So I'm going to be customizing it just the way I want it to look like. So first off, we are going to be creating ourselves another type of definition, which is going to be, let's say, widget example. So first thing, I'm going to create a couple of space to put in my other commands. So I'm going to put in a definition. So inside my definition, I'm going to put in widget example. Okay. Widget example. And I'm going to define it just by using grid layout because we can put a lot of buttons inside of our console if we use the grid layout. So I'm going to put in grid layouts and then I'm going to close off the definition and I'm going to put in a semicolon. And here, I'm going to put in my button. So I'm going to put in button over here. And then I'm going to put in my text. Let's say I'm going to put in my text over here. And then I'm going to put in another colon or semicolon here. And then let's say I'm going to, I want that button to say, click on this. Okay. So as I have this, and I'm going to create another label, which is going to help me to understand if I have clicked on that button. So I'm going to put in a label and I'm going to put in a semicolon. And here I want the text to say, let's say, hi. Okay. So now if I play out the whole thing, it's going to create myself up a button, but we did not change up this one. So I'm going to take this one over here, Control C, widget example, paste it right over here. And then if I play it out, this is how it should look like. But this is not exactly how I want. So I'm going to create myself up a column. So to create a column, I'm just going to make sure that my console, not the console, but my cursor is on the same indentation level as the button and the label. Okay. So here I'm going to put in calls and I'm going to put in a colon. And here I want to say 3 columns. So if I play it out, this is how it should look like. So click on this. Okay. So you can see this is how it should look like. So by the end of this class, I want my console or this app to show something as a text over here when I click on this button. And how will you be able to represent it as a data inside this? So I'm going to show you each and every one of these steps. So first things first is that we have to put in a specific command, which is on press. Okay. So here I'm going to go off after the text and I'm going to put in on press. So after the text, I'm going to put in on press. And then I'm going to put in a colon over here. And then I'm going to put in a couple of dots. Okay, let's just put in 4 dots. And if I play it out, it's still going to be the same. And it's going to show me as an error because it cannot still identify what we want to put. But you have to put it in as a class, okay? But if you don't want to put it in a class, it's also totally fine. But I would suggest you make yourself up a class and you have to run some commands in the Python file, which will actually define it. And also you'll be able to pass it out to the KV file, okay? So I'm going to go off over here. And right over here, I'm going to create a couple more spaces. And here I'm going to put in class. And inside the class, I'm going to put in, let's say, I'm going to put in the one which we are using right now as the widget example. So I'm going to put in widget example and I'm going to put in inside of the bracket or the parentheses. So I'm going to put in widget example. And inside of my parentheses, you're going to use the grid layout as the definition as the base. So I'm going to put in a parentheses. I'm going to put in grid layout. Okay. So there we go. It is almost done. And now you're not going to pass it up yet. Okay. because it is not defined yet. And now if you want to define it at first, then you have to put in just a widget example over here. Okay. So to do that, I'm just going to cut out a certain part of this one over here, remove out the @grid layouts. So just go off the KV file, and it's that easy. Just remove out this one. Okay. Because now we are passing it on to our widget example on our main.py file. Okay. So as this is defined and it also has the base, now you're going to customize the definition over here on the py file of the widget. Okay. So let's just move on with our class, and then you're going to paste out the same command that you put it inside of the stack layout, starting off with the definition. So I'm going to put in a space, and I'm going to put in def over here. And then you can try using the init file, but as we are using the on press, then you would suggest or you would prefer using the on button click. Okay, so I'm going to put in def on, let's say on underscore button, and then I'm going to put in another underscore and then put in click. So on button click, we need to put in a self function. So I'm going to put in a parentheses, and there we go. Self will already be applied, and put in a colon at the end. And then you're going to print out a specific value right underneath the on button click indentation level. Okay. So here I'm going to print out a specific value. Let's say inside the print value, I'm going to do is going to be showing a text, which is going to say button is clicked. Okay, so this is what I want my button to show, or my label to show, when you press on the button on, let's say, the console or the app. Okay, and you're going to use this specific, let's say, this specific line or this specific variable inside, or inside of the KV file. So I'm going to take out this on button click, Control C, and I'm going to just bypass it over here. Okay, so I'm going to cut this off, and I'm going to put in a bit of space, and I'm going to paste it right over here. On button click, it should show me a specific variable which we are using on our Python file. So I'm going to open up the parentheses over here, and inside of my parentheses, you're not going to be putting in anything because now it is using up a specific variable. Okay, but you can also use specific variables and specific commands inside. So I'm just going to close up the parentheses right now, and then you're also going to be using the self command inside of this. So I'm going to put in self, and then you're going to put in a dot, okay, which is basically going to term it as an argument. Okay, but it's also going to take the consent of the button inside of the widget example. So you should prefer using the root. Okay, so instead of self, as we're using the KV file, you can also try using root. Okay, so now if we play it out, you might see an error sometimes, but when you click on this, it will still not work because it is still working on the same, let's say, same argument of just showing you a button. But the rest of the things which you have to do is go on step by step and customizing the label over here. But you need to bypass this button into this specific label. But one thing you will see over here is that when you check this console over here, you can check that the button is clicked. So if I just open up this over here, and let's just terminate it again, and let's just terminate it. And if I play it back again, and if I just press on this, you will basically see on the console that it is showing me this button is clicked. Button is clicked. Click on this again, and you can see button is clicked. So no matter how many times I click, it's going to be shown up over here. But we want this specific, let's say, command or this specific return value inside of that console on high. Okay, so it's going to be a couple more steps to actually import it inside of our widget or inside of our layout. Okay, so you have to also use another property, which is basically called my text, and you're going to use the string property to actually import it inside. Okay, so here I'm going to just put this one, I'm going to close it off, go off to the main py file, and make sure that you are on the widget example. Okay, so right after widget example and grid layout definition, you are going to be putting in my underscore text. So you want to show that text inside as a string property. So equal, and here I'm going to use string property. There we go, string property. And then you're going to open up the parentheses, and then you are also going to take this and import it so that you can bypass the main Python file to the KV file. Okay, so you're going to import it right after metrics over here. So I'm going to make another space over here. I'm going to type in from kivi.uix and then dot again, and then you're going to put in properties. Okay, so there we go. We have put in properties, and after properties, you're going to import it as the string property. So I'm going to put in import string. There we go. You have to check it out. If it's still not working, you have to like check it out again. String pre property. Okay, you have to check out everything. There we go. My text is string property. You have to also check it out again. If it's still not working, make sure that it is going to be exactly the same text as this one. You can also copy this, Control C, Control V, and you're going to just reduce up the space over here, properties. Okay, so now this is working almost fine. And then you're going to put in the value inside. So here I'm going to put in hi inside of the string property. So I should say hi. Okay, and you can also put in hello, whichever variable you want to work with. And then we are going to be using our root value, and we're going to customize our label inside of our KV file. Okay, now you're going to go off to the label and KV, and inside of the label of text, you're going to put in my text. So I'm going to put in this variable, my text should be applied. And you can also cut off the quotations, which is basically going to term it as an argument. Okay, so now you could play it up and you will basically see that this is how it should look like. You can see no module named KVUIX properties has been found. Okay, so I'm going to do is going to be typing in property over here, and you're also going to check this one out, my text as string property. If the module is not available, then you can try it out. Properties, UIX properties, you can see anchor layout, box layout, and you also have to import it directly over here. Okay, so first off, make sure that this is bypassed, and if it's still not working, you have to use the root value inside of the text. So I'm going to put in root dot my text. Okay, so we have said that the text should root up your text from the Python file. Okay, so basically, if you see this error, one thing you're going to check is that we have it on line 3 in module. So we're just going to go back to our main Python, and we're just going to remove out this UIX. And now if I just play it out again, you'll basically see this is how it should work. You can see still we have this being as our result inside of the console. But if you want to just take it directly into, or let's say represent it inside our label, we have to put another line of command, which is you can just work on with the KV file and make sure to always put in root and then the property of my text. So I'm going to go off to this main.py file and I'm going to hit on enter, and you're going to put in self.myText, and then you're going to put in you clicked. Okay, so there we go. We just have it. You're just going to type in self.my, and then make sure that the variable is same, self.myText, and then you're going to put in that specific variable. Okay, so that is basically it. You're just going to put in an equal and whatever you want inside of your label. Okay, so just play it out. And there we go. We have our console ready. Now, if I click on this, you will not see the value or the result over here, but you will instead have this onto your label. So if I click on this, there we go. It is showing me you clicked. If I click on this again, it will still show me you clicked. So if I just change this value over here, and if I turn it successful, and then if I play it out, it will show me successful right over here. But another thing you can see, Y button is clicked, it means that it is still terming, or it is still calculating and also analyzing our clicks on that button. Okay, so that is basically it. Now if I put in, let's say, a default value to be something else, let's say nothing is clicked. If I play it on, you can basically see nothing is clicked will be over here. But if I click on this, it will show me successful as our output. Okay. So thank you for watching this video up till the very end and hope you understood about everything in this class. In my next class, I'm going to show you about an example or an exercise of how you can create a counter in this specific panel of your app just by using Python. So without any further ado, let's move on to our next class. And if you have any confusion or any question about any part of this lesson, feel free to ask me anytime. I'm always there to help you out.